YouTube, with the Boston Celtics rolling through the Eastern Conference like they have been all season, currently at the time of me recording this video sitting at 54-14, I think it's safe to say we have to start asking, is this finally going to be their year in terms of Boston bringing home an NBA Finals trophy like they did in 2008? Now, me personally, I hope this doesn't happen because if you look at the poster behind me, I am clearly a Sixers fan, and while I don't think my team in particular is going to win the finals this year, I just don't want it to be Boston. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my predictions for the Celtics in the finals, what happened in their playoff runs in years past, what have they done this year in particular roster wise and just with their play to fix those issues to become as legitimate as they are in the East this season. Let's talk about it, folks. So like I mentioned before, Boston is currently sitting at 54-14, top of the Eastern Conference with the best record in the entire NBA. In my personal opinion, just from watching the Celtics games that I have and observing the entire league, I would say without a doubt they are the best team in the NBA this season. The way they've been playing is extremely scary if you're a fan of an Eastern Conference team or even a Western Conference team. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically, if you're a fan of a contender, you ought to be scared of the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series more than anyone else in the NBA right now. Unfortunately, I would be one of those people. So how did this happen, right? Like, how did this season in particular become just so dominant for the Celtics? What did they do to address some of their issues? What even were their issues? I made a video in the offseason talking about how the Jrue Holiday trade was a near perfect fit for the Celtics and why it was going to work out so good in their favor. And clearly that has been the case. In my personal opinion, one of the bigger issues with the Celtics playoff runs the last few years, making it to the finals in 2022, conference finals pretty much every single season over the past 5 years. I thought their biggest issue was the point guard position, having a reliable floor general that can, set up guys like Tatum and Brown so that they don't have to carry so much on-ball responsibility and playmaking duties. They can just focus more on scoring and have an offensive team play style that suits their strengths a little bit more. That's certainly been the case this season, although they have, clearly been still doing a lot of the playmaking. Derrick White and Jrue Holiday have really stepped up when they need to, not only defensively as two of the best defensive guards in the NBA, but also, like I said, running the offense, right? That was a really big issue when Marcus Smart was the point guard. No disrespect to him, but you could see in a lot of close games and, high pressure situations at the end of the fourth quarter that the Celtics just didn't have someone to make the right play with the ball in their hands a lot of times and really got them in trouble in those close games, which naturally are going to happen over the course of a playoff run, especially the further you make it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Kristaps Porzingis. If you're a Celtics fan, you have to be thrilled with how that trade has worked out for you guys. Kristaps Porzingis had a really good year with Washington last year. Obviously, that team was pretty mediocre. There's always been question marks about his, impact in the NBA on can he really be this rim protecting big who can hit big shots on a real contender. We saw in Dallas, he struggled being the number 2 option, but now that he's more of the number 4 option, it seems that he is absolutely thriving in Boston, playing by far the best basketball of his career next to guys like Tatum, Brown, Derrick White, and Jrue Holiday. So clearly there's been a massive roster shift that has propelled the Celtics past the point where they were over the past few years, and it's only trending upward as the season goes along. They've also been one of the more healthy teams as far as their core goes across the season, and that is really helping their record as well. Right now, if I had to guess, I would say the Boston Celtics are for sure going to make it out of the Eastern Conference unless something drastically changes. The only teams I could see even giving Boston issues in 7-game series and having a real chance at beating them in a playoff setting would be a healthy 76ers team, even though I don't think even that team would be able to take out Boston. If Joel Embiid's 100% healthy, I think that's a problem for Boston, but Milwaukee, I'm not sold on in a 7-game series against Boston, and Cleveland and New York are a little bit better of matchups, but again, New York has to be healthy, which they haven't been, and Cleveland has to play their absolute best, which they were nowhere close to in the playoffs last season. This season, they do look to be more consistent, but only time will tell about Cleveland and, their playoff hopes. What I will say is I believe this feels different observing Boston from an outside perspective. The last couple of years, they clearly had one of the best rosters in the league, and obviously a top 10 player in Jayson Tatum, accompanied by really good options behind him. But there was a lot of doubt about the Celtics in years past. Miami seems to be the bane of their existence. I don't see Miami being as big of a threat this year, but who knows? We've been saying that for years now. Can never count them out. I just think it's different this year, similar to how it was with Denver. The Boston Celtics are simply just firing on all cylinders, maximizing the talent on their roster and playing their best basketball that they can possibly play night in and night out. They've done it on a more consistent basis than anyone else in the NBA this season. And believe me, I hate to say all these things. I'm am a Sixers fan. The Celtics are my least favorite team in the NBA, and obviously I don't want this to be the case. So if it's coming from me, you should know that I'm being very genuine in my opinions here. I just think if the playoffs started today, let's just even assume everyone's healthy in the Eastern Conference. I still pick Boston to come out of the East with, I don't know if I'd say little resistance, but I just don't know who's, capable of beating this team in a 7-game series. It would take them to beat themselves. It would take Tatum to, play very poorly. It would take a major collapse, in my opinion. This team is just too good over the course of 7 games to get, wiped out by an inferior opponent. So I really do think this is the Celtics' year, unless they beat themselves, like I said, unless there's an injury. Even as a Sixers fan, you never want to see that. You want the best competition to play the best competition in the playoffs. Doesn't matter how much you hate the team. You never want an injury. You want to beat someone at their best while you're at your best. That's what makes competition fun in the first place. So like I said, I do hope the Celtics lose, but I hope they lose on their own accord with nothing, health-wise interfering or anything like that. But as a fan of a choking team myself, I think, a choking type scenario with Boston, choking away a series, that could be a lot of fun for me personally. But no, I in all seriousness, I think this is the Boston Celtics year. They can only just beat themselves, and that's going to be their biggest test in the Eastern Conference as far as that goes. I honestly see them taking the East pretty handedly. If everything goes how it has been for them this season, there's no reason to think that they won't come out of the East. Question is, who will they face in the finals? And that's where you narrow it down to a few teams that I think could make it. You have OKC, you have Minnesota. If Cat comes back healthy, I made a video on that just a little while ago. Check that out if you haven't already. But basically, Minnesota, OKC, and Minnesota with a healthy Cat. That's the key note there. And Denver. You could maybe say the Clippers or, some of those lower seeded teams in the West like Phoenix or Lakers. I just don't know if I would bet money on those teams. If I'm picking today who would come out of the West, Denver would be the safest pick just because Jokic, best player in the world right now. And if they get everyone else going in the playoffs like they did last year, that's going to be a tough team to beat, even for OKC or Minnesota. You have OKC who's playing unreal basketball right now. Just sky's the limit for them in the future. And, even this season, I could see them making a real push. And then you have Minnesota, where I think that is the second safest pick behind Denver if everyone's healthy. And then the LA Clippers, which you have a Russell Westbrook injury problem, and you have, maybe not the best depth in the world as far as some of those role players go in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a very short rotation for them, and their older superstars are going to be taxed so heavily that I just don't know if they have a real chance as someone like Denver or OKC. They're still a very intriguing team that if they made the finals, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be upset because they have James Harden. No, I'm kidding. But I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. I would just, expect Denver or a team like that to make it past the Clippers. And as far as Denver goes, I think if anyone in the league has the roster to, match up well against Denver, it's Boston or it's Minnesota, fully healthy. But Boston in particular, the versatility of those defenders, I mean, that would be a really great final series. And that's kind of the one I'm hoping for if the Sixers, lose in the second round, which, let's be honest, there's a real possibility of that. But basically my point is, I think Boston is the clear favorite to come out of the East. Whoever comes out of the West, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll talk about that in a different video. But I just think, it's time to start being realistic about the Eastern Conference right now. Really starting to wonder who in this conference is going to be able to beat Boston other than themselves. And right now, I just don't see anyone being able to do it. With the question marks with Milwaukee, I think, their ceiling is the highest in the East other than Boston. But, there's a lot of question marks there. It's been a very up and down season for Milwaukee. And obviously we know with the players they have and the system and the culture they built with a lot of that core, having championship experience, that's very important. But, you've gone through multiple coaches. And in my opinion, Milwaukee's not putting together a lot of stretches where, they're playing consistent basketball at their best with everyone healthy. Chris Middleton's, quite frankly, while he's still playing really good and very serviceable third option, just clearly isn't the same Chris Middleton we're used to seeing since that knee injury a couple years back. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes up. I would put all my money on Boston if I had to right now. I just think it's, they've been so consistent. They've also been really healthy, and they're just blowing out teams every single night. They have 14 losses right now, and we're a couple weeks away from the playoffs here. That should be alarming to you guys if you're Eastern Conference fans of a team. So anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. You guys think Boston is the clear favorite to come out of the East, or do you think I didn't mention something in this video that maybe could be an interesting factor in Boston's playoff run? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm actually curious. Obviously I don't want Boston to make it that far, but hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. I just wanted to talk about this. I hope this isn't the future that I'm predicting, because like I said, it wouldn't be a great one for me, but unfortunately it is the future I would predict. Maybe we can revisit this video after the playoffs and see what I got got right and wrong. Maybe something crazy happens in between, where maybe, you know, Embiid gets back and plays at his best and, you know, fully conditioned for a Boston series, but that just doesn't seem likely at this point. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys drop a like on it if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. It would really mean a lot to me. We're trying to grow every day. I'll catch you guys in the next video. This is your boy D Haven, as always. Peace.